In the high desert of Eastern California, beyond paved roads and modern cities, there is a town that looks like it was simply left behind. Wooden buildings stand in silence. Dust gathers on floors that haven't been swept in decades. Inside abandoned homes, plates still sit on tables. Beds remain unmade. Shops are still stocked with goods that no one will ever buy. There are no residents, no voices, only wind moving through broken windows. This is Bodie, once one of the most lawless and fastest-growing towns in the American West. Today, it is one of the best-preserved ghost towns in the world, a place where time did not move forward. It just stopped. Bodie is located in a remote part of California, near the Nevada border. The land is dry. The air is thin. Winters are harsh, with heavy snow and freezing temperatures. Summers are hot and dusty. At first glance, it does not seem like a place where a city would ever exist. But in the 19th century, people came here for one reason: gold. The story of Bodie begins in 1859, when a prospector named W.S. Bodie discovered traces of gold in the hills. At the time, the California gold rush had already drawn thousands of people westward. News of gold spread quickly, but Bodie's location was remote and difficult to access. The early mining operations were small. A few miners worked the area. A few simple structures were built, but progress was slow, and for several years, Bodie remained a miner camp, largely unnoticed compared to larger mining towns. Then everything changed. In the late 1870s, a major gold deposit was discovered. This time, the amount of gold was significant, very significant. Mining companies moved in. Investors saw opportunity. Within a short period of time, Bodie transformed from a small camp into a booming mining town. People arrived in large numbers: miners, merchants, gamblers, and entrepreneurs, everyone hoping to make money. Buildings went up quickly. Wooden structures lined the streets. Saloons opened. General stores stocked supplies. Hotels offered rooms to travelers and workers. Banks were established to manage the growing wealth. Within just a few years, Bodie became one of the richest gold mining towns in California. At its peak, the population reached around 10,000 people. For a place that had once been nearly empty, the change was dramatic. But Bodie was not known for being peaceful. It quickly gained a reputation as one of the most dangerous towns in the West. There were dozens of saloons. Gambling halls operated day and night. Alcohol flowed constantly. Arguments were common, and many of those arguments ended in violence. Gunfights were not unusual. Murders occurred frequently. Law enforcement struggled to maintain order. The town developed a reputation that spread across the region. There is a story often repeated about a young girl who was moving to Bodie with her family. As they approached the town, she wrote in her diary, "Goodbye, God. I'm going to Bodie." Whether the story is fully accurate or not, it reflects how people viewed the town. Bodie was a place of opportunity, but it was also a place of risk. Despite its reputation, Bodie was more than just a lawless settlement. It was a functioning community. Families lived there. Children attended school. Churches were built. There were newspapers, social events, and organized activities. People tried to create a normal life in a place driven by mining. But everything in Bodie depended on one thing: gold. The mining operations in Bodie were extensive. Large stamp mills were built to process the ore. These machines crushed rock to extract gold. The sound of the mills could be heard across the valley. Day and night, the work continued. Miners spent long hours underground. The conditions were difficult. Tunnels were dark and unstable. Accidents were common, but the promise of gold kept people working. For a time, the town prospered. Money flowed through Bodie. Businesses thrived. New buildings continued to appear. But like many boom towns, Bodie's success was tied to a resource that would not last forever: By the early 1880s, the richest gold deposits had already begun to decline. Mining became less productive. Companies struggled to maintain profits. Some mines closed. Workers began to leave. Businesses saw fewer customers. The population slowly decreased. At first, the decline was gradual, but over time, it became more noticeable. Buildings were no longer maintained. Some were abandoned. The town that had once grown so quickly was now shrinking. Fires also played a role in Bodie's decline. Wooden buildings were highly vulnerable. In a town filled with saloons, lamps, and heating stoves, fires were almost inevitable. Several major fires destroyed large sections of Bodie. Each time, parts of the town were rebuilt, but not always completely. As the population decreased, rebuilding efforts slowed. Empty lots appeared where buildings once stood. The town began to change. By the early 20th century, Bodie was no longer the thriving city it had once been. Many residents had already left. Mining operations continued on a smaller scale, but the boom years were over. The town entered a period of slow decline. Businesses closed, families moved away, buildings were left empty, yet Bodie never experienced a single moment of complete abandonment. Instead, it faded gradually. Year by year, decade by decade. By the 1940s, only a small number of people remained. The town was quiet. Most of the activity had disappeared. The streets were no longer crowded. The saloons were gone. The mines were no longer producing significant amounts of gold. Eventually, even the last residents left. Bodie became a ghost town. But unlike many abandoned towns, Bodie was not completely destroyed. It was not fully dismantled. It was not redeveloped. Instead, it was left standing. Buildings remained in place. Furniture stayed inside homes. Items were left on shelves. It was as if the town had simply been paused. In the 1960s, the state of California recognized the historical value of Bodie. Efforts were made to preserve the town. But instead of restoring it to look new, officials chose a different approach. They called it arrested decay. The goal was not to rebuild Bodie. The goal was to maintain it exactly as it was, to preserve the feeling of abandonment, to keep the buildings from collapsing completely while allowing them to show their age. Today, Bodie is preserved as a state historic park. Visitors can walk through the streets. They can look inside buildings. They can see homes with furniture still inside, kitchens with dishes still on shelves, stores with goods still displayed. It is not a reconstruction, it is the real town. Walking through Bodie feels different from visiting most historical sites. There are no crowds of residents, no active businesses, no modern life. Only the remains of a place that once existed. The silence is noticeable. The buildings stand still. Dust covers nearly every surface. Time feels suspended. Some buildings are partially collapsed. Others remain surprisingly intact. Inside a schoolhouse, desks are still arranged as they once were. In a general store, products still sit on shelves. In homes, personal belongings remain where they were left. Each object tells a small part of the story. Each building reflects a moment in time. The environment around Bodie continues to shape it. The desert wind moves through broken windows. Snow falls heavily during winter months. Temperatures rise and fall with the seasons. Slowly, the buildings continue to age. But preservation efforts ensure that the town does not disappear completely. Today, Bodie stands as a reminder of a specific period in history. A time when entire towns were built around a single resource. A time when people moved quickly in search of opportunity. And a time when those same towns could disappear just as quickly. Bodie was not unique in being a mining town, but it is unique in how well it has been preserved. Many other towns from the same era no longer exist. They were dismantled, rebuilt, or simply erased by time. Bodie remains. The streets are still there. The buildings are still standing. The objects inside those buildings are still in place. Together, they form a complete picture of a town that once thrived. There are no residents in Bodie today, but the evidence of their lives remains everywhere. In the arrangement of furniture, in the items left behind, in the structures that still stand. Out in the California desert, Bodie continues to face the elements. Wind moves through its empty streets. Snow falls across its rooftops. Sunlight fades the wood of its buildings. Year after year. The town does not grow. It does not change in the way living cities do. Instead, it slowly wears down, carefully preserved in a state between existence and disappearance. Bodie began as a place of opportunity, a place where people came to find gold. For a time, it succeeded. It grew quickly. It became one of the most active towns in the region. But when the gold declined, so did the town. Today, Bodie remains as it was left, not fully gone, not fully alive. A quiet record of a past moment. In the end, Bodie is not just a ghost town. It is a preserved snapshot of history, a place where time stopped moving forward, and where the traces of human life remain exactly where they were left. If you want more stories about places where history refuses to stay buried, hit the subscribe button and check out these videos next. Thanks for watching.